See that alarm that went out? That's what I loved.
I think I peaked. I think you need to take the intro while I build up my energy stores.
Ready? Okay. Mic check. 1, 2. Here are cool. We're hyping up the whole pit wall. Canadian GP. Let's get loud. Best podcast fans in the whole damn crowd. Give me a C.
C.
Championship. This title fight's hotter than a poutine on a plate. Piastri leads with a 1-8-6 to date. But Lando's not chilling. He's right on the attack. Just 10 points behind, breathing down his back. It's an all-out McLaren Maple Fuel team brawl. Who will take the crown? We're loving it all. Give me an A.
A.
Aston. He qualified 14th. Not the best day. Then came the news. Strolls out of the race. A hand and wrist injury caused him pain, so Spain's Grand Prix, he wouldn't remain. Atop MotoGP, Doc took the lead with a quick procedure to meet the need, but whispers spread. Was this the end? Would Lance's journey be on the mend? His future at Aston hung by a thread. The media buzzed. Is he done, they said? Would he miss the race in Montreal? Or would this be his curtain call? But baby, he's back, ready to ride with Moosey Woosey grit and Canadian pride. Give me an N. Notorious Wall. We're racing around Il Notre Dame, a concrete jungle, not so calm. Since 78, it's thrilled the crowd with engines screaming long and loud. But one wall's earned her brutal name. The Wall of Champions claims its fame. At the final chicane, it's tight and mean. It shatters hopes and wipes them clean. In 99, it sealed its fate, took out 3 champs at a savage rate. Schumi, Hill, and homegrown Jack. Each one clipped it and lost the track. I don't know why I've changed the rhythm. Welcome to Quebec, said the sign, then spat them out, one at a time. So chase the glory, give it your all, but mind the bite of the champion's wall. Give me an A.
A.
Ambition. The Canadians track a Mercedes delight. They're hungry for triumph, aiming for a new height. With cool attempts coming, their spirits ignite, ready for a charge to get the race just right. From third in the standings, they're looking ahead. A comeback in Canada, words yet to be said. Give me a D.
D.
Dutchman drama. This tea's hotter than a double-double. Max is racing, full throttle and trouble. Crash with Russell, penalty in sight. 3 points added and the stakes are tight. 11 points now, just in 1 year. One more and a ban will appear. 2 races left, no room to fail. Max gotta stay clean and give it his all. Give me an A.
A.
Allegations. Ferrari's in a drama, a whisper, a fuss. Rumours are flying and creating a buzz. Fred Vasseur's future, they're starting to doubt. But Lewis has his back, no shadow of a doubt. He's all just nonsense, he declares with a roar. He's the man for Ferrari and so much more. What does that spell?
Canada.
Yes! Go, fight, win. It's race day, let's begin. Your F1 cheerleader bringing the buzz. That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't right. Go, fight, win. It's race day, let's begin. Where does it rhyme? Go, fight. Sorry, okay, wait. Go... I don't know where it rhymes. Go, fight, win. It's race day, let's begin. Your F1 cheerleader bringing the buzz. That doesn't make sense. Okay, I'll just... Okay, what?
I don't think any of it.
Okay, wait. Go. How dare you? Go, fight, win. It's race day. Let's begin. Your F1 cheerleader bringing the buzz. Lights out. Start feeling the rush. Okay, that kind of works, right? Girlies?
You were a theatre kid, right?
Yeah. No. Are you ready, Grand Prix?
Oh,
Let's...
okay,
Are you ready, Grand Prix? Let's go. No, that might be the worst one I've done yet, to be fair. That didn't work, did it? I've been practicing that rap for quite a while as well.
That was interesting.
Didn't show.
How rude are you? That's how my feelings. I can't even talk. Well, it's our connect. I actually haven't got anything words-wise to say for the intro. That was it. Should we watch the race?
You've actually rendered us speechless, which is dreadful for a podcast.
Especially an audio-only podcast.
It doesn't translate.
I think your request of telling us not to look blankly after you've done this intro was a very, very big request. Because how can we not?
You were obviously looking at your script for that.
Yeah.
You didn't see that every time you were asking us to give you a letter, me and Reem were like...
I was going to keep up so and you were like, what does that spell? I'm
Oh,
like,
fucking hell, Reem. You couldn't preempt what the next letter of the alphabet was going to be in her
I
spelling
could
thing.
barely keep up. We did that about 60 times.
Hey, what? No. That's not true.
I'm keeping all of the end bit of you capitulating over the fact that it doesn't rhyme in.
No! This is a professional podcast.
I think people will know if it's been edited, considering the tone change goes from excited to confused.
Yeah, but to be fair...
Also, why did you just switch rhythms?
I
You had a deeper voice.
Wait, what? I didn't have a deep voice. Which one?
At one point I went to...
What do you mean the whisper I did about Stroll? It was because it was like... Ooh, it was dramatic. No,
changed looks at that point.
I do admit, I think it was for Mercedes. I thought I'd change
Switch
it.
the beat.
Yeah, there was a beat switch. That's what kids say. I know, I keep making jokes like I'm old, and I don't like it.
Unfortunately, you will not be getting a call back.
From who? Well, that encapsulated all of the things that we're excited for from the Canadian Grand Prix.
Where do we go from there? Seems there's only one logical place, and it's to make you talk really fast again.
Yeah.
Is he's calling that? As we know, George Russell put his Mercedes on the top spot for the Canadian Grand Prix, and he did it with a lap time of 1 minute and 10 seconds, the only driver during qualifying to get into the 110s.
Yes, that T-posing maverick.
Are you ready?
I don't see what's funny about that. Yes, I think so. How long have I got?
1 minute 10.
Good God. Okay. Wow. Okay. We're really shooting for the moon today. Jesus. They go so fast.
You've done us a cheer, and now you're doing us a rap. They go so fast. I just clocked what you said.
You do. Who's on mediums?
Are you ready? Isabel replied to me.
Sorry. Yeah, this isn't going to work.
Are you steady?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1, begin.
Sorry. You throw me off with that.
Go!
The session began with Alpines and Antonelli on medium tyres. Early place was shown for Mercedes, McLaren and Aston Martin, with Ferrari also slotting into the top four. The red flag occurred when Albon's engine cover exploded, and he was also noted for not following the race director instructions. Tsunoda received a 10-place grid penalty for an earlier incident in FP3. After the restart, Albon impressively rejoined and secured P6, while Norris went P1. Ultimately, Bortoletto, Sainz, Stroll, Lawson and Gasly were eliminated. In Q2, Verstappen set a very fast lap on medium tyres, and Piastri and Norris closed behind in 2 and 3. Russell and Antonelli showed strong pace. Colapinto had a close call with the Wall of Champions, but saved it. Leclerc then delivered a scorching lap to go fastest, and Albon continued his good boy. Oh, I've called him a good boy. Sorry. Okay. And Albon continued his good. Sorry, no, that's really messed me up. Sorry. There's something really weird about my brain that says a good boy. No, it was meant to be good form, and I called him a good boy. I was like, good boy. Well done, good form. So like Bono with bloody Antonelli.
Right.
Okay.
You've got 30 seconds, 36 seconds left.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, go.
Okay, go.
And Albon continued his good form by securing P7. Sorry, that's really stressed me out. Sorry. Okay, I'll just finish the sentence. Okay. And Albon continued his good boy. Oh my God! No. Shitting out. Okay, I can do this.
Go.
And Albon continued his good form by securing P7. The session concluded with Tsunoda, Colapinto, Hulkenberg, Behrman and Ocon being eliminated. The final qualifying session saw Norris abort his first lap after cutting the corner, while Piastri initially went fastest. Verstappen then took the fastest time overall. Under pressure, Norris could only manage P5. Mercedes cars continued to impress, securing the front row. Alonso also put in a strong performance, taking P4 on the medium tyres. Leclerc experienced oversteer in his final run and backed off. Piastri then briefly held onto provisional pole, but Verstappen ultimately snatched pole position. However, it was Russell who ultimately secured pole position for the race. Weakest ending I've ever fucking done. So sorry.
It ended weak, but it ended on time. So well done to you.
Thank you.
Should we give you a break from talking and go and watch the race?
Yeah, let's do it.
Well. The Canadian Grand Prix started off boring as shit and ended really entertaining.
Well. I actually really agree with you. Lap 67 was the best thing I've seen all race. highlights were pretty short, weren't they, in the cool-down room? That was because, well, all the excitement happened 3 laps till the end of the race.
I mean, I think the obvious thing to start talking about is going to be Oscar and Lando.
Yes, this has been in the making for a long time.
Oh, it's been brewing.
It's been brewing.
Like a good English
Like a
breakfast
good
tea.
tea. It's been getting richer and darker and velvetier. Velvetier. Is that a word?
I don't know.
More velvety. And now Lando Norris picked up that cup, threw it on the floor.
Lando
and that's what
Norris.
happened. What? What
Lando
are you saying, Lando Norris in the background?
You said Lando Norris.
Did I?
You did.
Yeah, I guess it got spicy today. All right. Thank you. Thank you. I'm here every race week. Okay.
He was being told to push by the engineers before the crash happened. And then he was getting close to Piastri. And then they were side by side. I think he overtook Piastri for a second. And then
Yeah, he
Piastri
kept
took it
doing
back.
that sort of. He sort of did like I'm behind you a couple of times, but he wasn't. Yeah. But he wasn't quite there. But then obviously Piastri got DRS, didn't he? Off Antonelli. And that's when it all changed.
Norris crashed and I felt bad for him until I saw the replay.
Yeah, his onboard was rather damning.
It was. They asked, "Are you all right, dude?" He said, "Yep, I'm sorry. It's all my bad, all my fault. Unlucky. Sorry. Stupid from me." I actually kind of respect him for saying that.
Yeah.
Lots of others would be like, "What the fuck was he doing?" And then they'd be like, "It was you. You were doing everything." But it's a huge dent in that championship lead he was hoping to try and pull back.
Well, yeah.
And it's all changed, baby. Also, as a side note, Ferrari aren't in P2. We'll get there.
But I mean, you were saying while we were watching the race that if he doesn't push and try to overtake Piastri, then he might regret it because it can make a huge difference if he did.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he can get very close to Piastri in the
Don't pin this
championship.
on me.
So I'm not pinning it on you. But
Side
I'm
note,
saying-
I also said that Norris should just take them all out because the race was boring. So I will accept some accountability.
Stop messing. Look at me, look at her.
we were all wishing for a crash and a safety car. 'cause
No,
it
we
was that
weren't.
boring. But
A
I mean,
safe crash.
Yes.
But I mean, he probably had that mentality in his head, and that's
I think
why
desperation.
he got too
And to be
ambitious.
fair, he's been saying that at some point those two are going to come together because they are the closest battle on track.
Yeah, it's very true.
So
I mean-
he kind of just manifested his own doom.
I
Yep.
agree. I actually really agree. He's already had a bit of a rubbish qualifying, and he basically said that he made too many mistakes and was pushing a bit too hard during quali. And if you remember, he was left on the back foot, and then he ran wide at the final chicane, and for his first flying lap in Q3. And then he put in another attempt, but in the end, he failed to find time and then started 7th.
Yeah.
So he was already on the back foot on Saturday. So that was already a bit of a mistake, which he owned up to.
But to be fair, the fact that he'd managed to get himself up to 5th was like good enough.
It
Like,
was.
take that.
He was putting in overtakes, but the issue that he had in qualifying Saturday, making mistakes and pushing too hard, then happened again in Sunday.
Yeah.
But I wonder, when you're that close behind your closest championship rival, that's also your teammate, you don't want to be behind them. So it's a racer's instinct to want to be ahead. However, he looked a bit of a knob, didn't he? So it wasn't the greatest... Sorry. Well, that's my technical analysis. What do you want? Let's pretend Lando Norris is a girly pop with us for a
Okay.
second. He's coming over. He's here. And we're going to try and pep talk him. And he's like, girls, I had such a shit day today. You'll never guess what happened. And we're like, girly pop, what happened? If he explained what
We
happened
bust
today...
out into Destiny's Child girl. Like,
Sure. Once we've given Lando Norris a really weird performance of Destiny's Child's back catalogue of music. And
I
he
called
says,
dibs on Beyonce.
okay, well... okay, Kelly. Okay, and then once we've done that, and he's like, girl, seriously, that was sensational. My God. The podcast viewers are really missing out seeing those faces. What would you then give as advice to him to go back into Austria for next race and be able to not get back in his head about what's happened today?
I'd say, Norris, you're
No, you
still...
don't call him Norris, he's girly pop. Or he's Lando.
Nori Bear.
Nori Bear. Nori Bear.
Cute.
Or Nor.
I'd say you're still P2 in the drivers' standings currently,
Mhm.
so there's still hope. You had one fuck up, but you thought that you were gonna get it, and you would have regretted it if you didn't try. So at least you tried. Yes, you looked stupid, but it's okay. People are gonna forget. There's been stupider people on the track. go in with the mentality to the Austrian Grand Prix, thinking, I didn't fuck up completely. I still have a chance. I just need to recover. I need to show people that I'm not stupid, and just go for it.
Okay, well, good advice. Nav?
I would take the complete opposite approach.
Oh.
I wouldn't lie to his face and
Lie?
say, well, yeah.
Oh.
You didn't fuck up completely. Yes, you did.
Well, I mean,
Oh my
you
god,
said-
she is Beyonce.
You missed your marks.
But I mean, he's still, I mean, he fucked up once, but so far in the 2025 season, he's been doing quite well. So he
Has been doing well, but the one fuck up he did have in this race, which is the one that he's asking for advice about, is the one that meant that he got 0 points.
Yeah.
So I would say, clear your mind of last race, forget about it, and go out there and like change everyone's minds, because everyone thinks right now that you're a bit of a twat.
Oh, golly. 2 very different approaches.
Good cop, bad cop.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So where do you stand?
I would be...
You're out of the group.
Oh, no, I don't want to be out of the group.
Good cop, bad cop, sorry to take it. What are you going to do?
I'm going to be the bitchy girl that no one really...
Oh.
Like, everyone... You always invite her around. She has really nice hair products and stuff, but she's actually not very nice. I'm going to be that girl. So I'd be like, you know what? I'll tell you something. At least you haven't got 11 points like fucking Max does. Oh, shade. Yeah, shade. At least you're not doing a stupid T-pose like George. Oh, burn. You got nicer hair than Piastri. Your hair is so banging, baby. You're going to show everybody. And that would be that. I'd bring other people down to make him feel better.
Nice.
He's just a little baby.
And you know what? He'd love you the most.
Yeah, he would.
Because all he really wants to do is bitch.
Exactly. I'd hold his hand and say, let's go perm that little hair. Because that's got to be a perm, right?
Yeah,
No, I think it's
so.
natural.
Oh, I really am being the shady queen. My bad. Lovely curls.
The good thing about the Norris crash is the fact that it kept Antonelli on podium.
Yes!
That's true.
Yes! What a
Little-
scene!
Little Antonelli.
Now him I would be good cop for all the time.
Oh. Ew, that sounds a bit weird.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't like that.
Antonelli's
dear.
like, hubba hubba.
Oh dear.
You have no
Rewind.
right- You have no right to comment after calling album good boy. Say again.
Twice.
All right, daddy science over there.
And I stand by it.
Girls.
Sorry. Sorry, I'm treating them like pieces of meat. What's wrong with that? Okay, right. Something's in the air today. Antonelli's a lovely boy. I'm moving straight over. Antonelli's a lovely boy, and the move he did into turn 1.
Stop talking about his moves.
No. I think the heat's got to us. Right. I'm trying to talk about one. Right. Okay. So we knew as we were going through the sessions of this weekend that Mercedes, they like cooler conditions.
Yeah.
They've had a good car so far. However, at the end of last year, P2 was always going to be Ferrari. They were red hot last year. Now, it seems that Mercedes have worked through some of their issues. They still have had a couple of races that they sort of in no man's land. However, when it came in to this weekend, they were at the top of the timing boards for most of FP3. They were there or thereabouts. And George, I feel like George had a fantastic race win today, his 4th, I believe, which is fantastic for him. And he's getting more and more confident in that team. However, for little young Kimi Antonelli, he's so new to all of this. We're on race 10. It's his 10th race in Formula 1. And as Russell is in P1, he's managed to get himself in P3.
Yeah.
That is mad.
Yeah.
Piastri was being told on the radio that Verstappen and Antonelli were his competition.
Yes.
Which is crazy. And Piastri is the one who's leading the driver standings.
That's very true.
Yeah, and he obviously made a fantastic overtake on Piastri on lap 1.
Yes, he did. That's kind of what made his race, to be honest with you.
Completely. If he hadn't have done that, he wouldn't have been able to get up there
No.
for the rest of the race, I don't think. But he did it, and he made it stick. And
did.
by lap 13, he was then, coming up to the back of Max Verstappen, who,
Yeah.
he got very, very close to overtaking Max, and who then dove into the pits
Yeah.
instead, so that he didn't waste time defending against Antonelli. And then
But
we had
that-
Mercedes 1-2. And then one lap later, Antonelli was leading the race as George Russell pit. And it was just like, oh my God, I know it's not going to last, but this is great to see.
Yes, I think that his composure throughout a race is what I love most about Kimi Antonelli.
Yeah.
Because when he's driving around, the last triple header for Mercedes was obviously quite troublesome. It was really a triple header to forget for them. And they needed to come back into this race weekend renewed, refreshed, energized, and ready to attack it.
Yeah, talk about redemption.
Legit. If you go into that and you've got pole and P4, you convert that to a 1-3. I mean, you can't have asked for anything more.
No.
Well, actually, you can. You can have asked for a 1-2. But let's not get greedy. But I think that if there was a sniff of him being able to get past Verstappen, he would have given it a good go. But you forget how young he is, and then you hear Bono saying, like, how do you feel? And you could well done, lad. And it's so wholesome.
Yeah.
It's so wholesome. I loved seeing him podium that.
I do think George Russell, part of him must be very annoyed at that happening, just because this is his first win of the season, first time that he's gotten P1, and then he wants all of the attention and the glory, but then Kimi Antonelli got P3, and Kimi Antonelli is now officially the third youngest driver to be on podium, and he's going to be getting all of the attention. I mean, we started with praising Antonelli before praising the winner of the race.
So he's only little.
He's just a baby. But I mean, there must be a part of him that's like a little bit annoyed.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that, but there's also been quite a lot of speculation around Russell doesn't have a contract yet, and his contract is open, and his current deal will be running out at the end of 2025. When Sky Sports F1 quizzed Toto Wolff after qualifying about whether that amazing pole position he's managed to get might help getting some ink on the paper, he said, yes, I must admit he's giving us all the reasons to do that very quickly. However, I do think that he'll be keen to be riding off this high, but he's not sailing off into the distance. Antonelli's lurking in the background. I think if you give Antonelli a couple more seasons and he gets that experience, he gets the sloppy, silly mistakes out of the way, I think he'll be right there with him. Yeah. So it might be, currently, he might be a little bit of a niggling irritation that could turn into something bigger.
Yeah. But I think at the moment where they're not really going for a proper championship in Mercedes, they're not going for drivers' championship and they're not going for constructors, really. They're too far behind in both. And I don't see them catching up with the McLarens at any point. I think for this year, they're probably seeing it as a team game. Let's get as many points for the team. In which case, he will be thinking, oh, well, thank fuck Antonelli's up here and I'm not having to carry this show all on my own, because then if I have a hooner of a performance, then it's all on me. Whereas if we're both, there or thereabouts, then, we can share the glory and we can share the letdowns and
That's
whatnot.
true. He'll want to share the glory as long as he's ahead, though.
Yeah.
The first person you want, and that's not a slight on George, that's everybody.
Yeah,
the first person you want to be on that pit wall is your own teammate.
Yeah.
Because it's a reflection of your performance. That person is the only person on that grid that has the same car as you.
Yeah.
So if you can't beat them, then it doesn't show the rest of the grid you can beat anyone else.
Yeah.
So I think that's completely true. And you see with Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri today, if you're having to fight for a championship, that dynamic changes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think that Lando Norris would have done that move if they weren't fighting for a championship. But ultimately, the inner bastard came out, as it happens many a time. Max had it last time out in Barcelona.
Yeah.
And sometimes that competitive adrenaline courses through you and you go for it. And he was trying to catch Piastri out, and it makes sense. But you're right. If they came into maybe 2026 or 2027, and as people are predicting that Mercedes are going to have a rocket ship of an engine in the back of their car, and they're then fighting for victories and championships, that could be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now George Russell is only 19 points behind Max Verstappen.
Good dog.
Damn.
Trying to get into that P3 position in the Drivers' Championship.
Good for him.
Wow, that's very interesting.
And with George and Antonelli's wonderful performances, it has pushed Mercedes up to P2 in constructors. They have overtaken Ferrari again.
What? That's crazy.
They are still 175 points behind McLaren, though, which is insane. And then Ferrari are 16 points behind them.
It is a bit of a runaway train with McLaren this season. I'm not going to lie to you, though. I've been reflecting, girls.
Oh.
I've had some reflection, okay?
Okay.
Last time out in Barcelona,
Yeah.
we obviously had quite a controversial move done by the reigning world champion, Max Verstappen, in his Red Bull.
Yeah.
It's obviously sparked a lot of controversy on social media, all across the newspapers, and in the F1 world. Everyone's had their own opinion on it. Even though it was reckless and he's come out and said he shouldn't have done it, there's sort of a part of me that thinks that you can't have a Max Verstappen great moment without a Max Verstappen heated moment. It's the yin and yang of a champion. And sometimes you just have to push that dial a little bit. And if you don't get those bad moments, you don't get the amazing moments that we can all enjoy on screen. So over time, I'm starting to think his overall sort of his overall legacy is kind of iconic.
Sorry, our last episode was all about safety, where we condemned his actions, and now you're trying to backtrack on it. Can you re-reflect?
I flip-flop, I agree. And that's a good point. And maybe I could backpedal. But I think... No, I listen, I think there's many drivers throughout history that have been controversial with their driving style.
Mm-hmm.
However, you can't get a champion like Max Verstappen without having a grit.
No,
and
I
a
get
need
that.
to want to race
I think
hard.
you can have an aggressive driver, and you can have a driver that goes for bold moves and stuff like that. But what he did wasn't a bold move. It was just
Petty,
childish. It was dangerous. It was driving deliberately into someone, deliberately not making a corner, just as like a fuck you. I appreciate all of his other moves where he's like, you know, going for gaps that aren't really there and stuff like that, because yeah, cool, at least he's trying. This was just him wanting to say fuck you to George.
That's true. But we have another world champion that was racing for Ferrari, and it was in Baku against Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
Sebastian Vettel, at the time, felt that Lewis Hamilton had brake tested him.
Mm-hmm.
Brake testing somebody is when they're ahead of you, they partially put on the brakes, and it sort of forces the driver before, if they're not expecting it, they end up continuing to move their car forward, and they crash into the back of them. And behind a safety car, he felt that that's what Lewis did. And he said, like, you just brake tested me.
That's what Max accused George of doing in this race.
Yeah.
Well done. Big brain.
Thank you.
As a result, Sebastian Vettel took matters into his own hands, and he drove alongside Lewis, and he just sort of bumped into him. And Lewis sort of casually put his left hand up and sort of flexed it outwards and was like, well, he just turned into me. What's going on? Now, that was not a good moment for Sebastian Vettel.
No.
But I also think he's iconic. Okay? I can't help it. I do. Okay? It adds
but
drama.
if we're going to talk about Vettel iconic moments, it was in Canada.
It was.
Where he cut the corner, rejoined the track unsafely, didn't give the position back to Lewis, and then swapped his position cards around at the end of the race. That's an iconic Vettel moment. The deliberately driving into Lewis was not.
It's how you see things, I think. That's
Entertainment-wise, it was like, oh, shit's getting heated.
Yeah.
But actual, like, the right way to race, that wasn't good.
No, it wasn't. But I'm saying it's the yin and the yang. It's the dark and the light. It's the good and the bad.
But we shouldn't be praising them for that.
No, I'm not saying we praise them. I say...
You are.
No, wait. Because I'm saying that we at the time we say, that's not cool. Don't do that.
And
not
we
iconic.
should continue
Yes,
saying
yes,
that.
and I agree. But then as time has passed and the dust has settled, we say quietly, you're kind of iconic though. And that is what I'm trying to say. Anyway, with that in mind, that was a really long way. I was actually trying to build into something else.
Oh.
But you guys made a whole discussion. But I love talking about girlies, so I don't mind. Okay. So, the reigning world champion, Max Verstappen, is obviously one penalty point away from getting a one race ban. Did you know?
Dun, dun.
Why are you not stopping? That was a Black Mirror episode. We got stuck in time.
Energy.
Yeah. Okay. So, as per the FIA regulations, if you tot up 12 penalty points within a 12-month period, you get a one race ban.
Dun, dun, dun.
That was a short one. Nice. And Verstappen is on how many? 6 + 5?
21.
Nice. You stupid. Which means he needed to have a clean race.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a clean race.
Yeah.
He had a clean race. He's capable of doing that. That's okay. We didn't see any incidents, so that's that. But I was expecting to see Russell kind of antagonise him off turn one, if I'm honest. I was expecting him because after qualifying, George said, I've got a few more points on my licence to play with, so let's see. Which was
iconic.
Iconic. But again, also naughty, but also quietly iconic. So
It's not naughty because he hasn't driven into someone. He's just said something into a mic. He does what we do. We can't cause serious damage to anyone here.
Yes, we can.
We
Our
fucking
words are still very important now.
Yeah, no, you're right, we can. I need to understand the weight of the things that I say on this podcast.
Confidently said words can't hurt anyone. It's crazy. So, during the Thursday media day, obviously Verstappen arrived in Canada and no one gave a hoot and heck about anything other than this whole penalty points drama.
Mm-hmm.
And he really wasn't interested in changing his approach to how he was racing, and he wasn't interested in discussing the whole entire topic. He wanted to just move on. I know, crazy. And then he basically said, I don't need to hear it again. It's really pissing me off. I mean, you were speaking about it on Thursday. It's such a waste of time. It's very childish. So that's
Not calling the kettle black. The fuck?
But it's kind of so unhinged. It's kind of like, it's iconic. Like, I kind of stan it, to be honest. So that's why I also don't want to say too much, because it's really annoying, this world that we live in.
You were political.
Oh, Max, check your privilege.
It's like, I kind of, that's what I mean. It's so silly that I kind of think, like, Queen, I'm gonna love it. I'm like, yes.
We have very weird takes on this podcast.
Yeah.
You called George a Karen and you praised him
George
for
can
it.
be a Karen, and I love it.
Should we try and inform someone of something on this podcast at some point? So, how did Verstappen manage to get 11 points? Well,
By being iconic, apparently.
So, I've got a game for you.
All
How did Verstappen manage to get those 11 points? I'm going to read them out, what he did, his offence, and you're going to say if it was grand or prick.
Okay.
June 30th, 2024, he accrued 2 points for causing a collision with Lando Norris in the Austrian Grand Prix.
I remember that one. Prick.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, it was a bit prickish, I'm not going to lie.
Right.
October 27th, 2024, he accrued 2 points for forcing Lando Norris off the track at Mexico City GP. Okay, I actually can't defend that one. That one was crazy.
That was prick.
That was wild. It was prick.
Again, I haven't seen it, but prick.
It was crazy.
This is not new Formula One fan friendly.
November 2, 2024, 1 point for driving too fast under a virtual safety car in the Sao Paulo sprint.
I mean, it's against the rules and therefore prick.
Sounds pricky.
It's pricky, but it's not
Well, no, he wasn't really a prick. He was just silly.
grand. Iconic.
Well, no, it's not iconic. He broke rules.
Well, we'll have a middle ground. Okay, that's what we'll go for.
Okay,
Thank you. November 30th, 2024, 1 point, driving unnecessarily slowly and impeding George Russell in the Qatar GP qualifying.
kind of iconic because
Yes.
it led to the other
It
stuff.
led to the beef between those two.
Yeah.
The two Karens of F1 came together over that. So, we're giving that grand. I don't care.
I'll give that grand.
I literally don't care what anyone says.
I'll give it grand.
Thank
Just
you.
for all the tea that it caused.
Yes. December 8th, 2024, he got 2 points for causing a collision with Oscar Piastri in the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. I remember that. If you remember, it spun round Oscar.
Yeah.
And same with Max. Yeah, prick. I don't
Prick.
like that one. And June the 1st, 2025, 3 points, causing a collision with George Russell in the Spanish Grand Prix.
Prick.
Oh yeah, that was definitely prick.
Fine, prick. You get my point though, right?
But they were all either prick or meh, except one that just caused a lot of drama, so it was kind of tea.
Yeah.
No, I don't get your point. I
Okay,
think,
well,
I think,
you might
I
say
think,
that's-
This
I
entire
think-
segment was pointless.
I think your game proved my point.
Okay, fine.
Well, he has to be on his best behaviour for the next Grand Prix out in Austria,
Yes, he does. He really does.
because that one also will be within his 12-month period. So if he gets any more points, then he will get a one-race ban.
Oh god.
After that, however, he has a bit of wiggle room because 2 of his points will go off, so he'll have 3 points to play with.
Good luck, George. I
Um,
like that they were antagonizing each other behind the safety car. I thought it was very funny.
Yeah, I was a bit confused what that was all about, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It was obviously started by George, who was trying to warm up his tyres and then just sort of stopped and slowed down, and Max that then revved right ahead, and they were both telling on each other.
Yeah, I think they were maybe both trying to get each other in trouble.
Most likely,
Basically.
yeah. I think they're frenemies right now.
I don't think there's friend in there anyway.
No, because in the cool down room they were chatting, but then I guess they kind of
Okay,
had
they
They
to.
know that they have cameras on them.
Yeah,
when
that's
they
true.
when they were on the podium together and they were throwing the champagne on each other and whatnot, I completely forgot that they're not friends.
They were trying to make each other's blind.
Yeah. So, overall, Max had a good race.
Yeah, he did.
Someone who did not, for a second race in a row, is the good boy, Alex Albon.
It was a day to forget for young Alex, because he obviously in qualifying, the bodywork on his car just exploded.
Yeah, that was wild.
He was going down a straight and it literally just popped off. And not in a fun, like, it's popping off, Queen, like it just popped off. So he didn't even know that it had happened. You could see all the intricate metal workings and all these beautiful parts of his car that were all exposed because the bodywork had just come off.
Yeah, it just exploded.
Yeah, and then he had to come into the pits and they had to try and do a rush job to try and tape it all down and get him back out. So it was a pretty difficult qualifying as a result. Where did he finish, Nav? Am I right in saying he was 9th?
Yeah, he finished qualifying in 10th, but obviously Hadra got a penalty, which moved him up.
So he was promoted up to P9.
Yeah.
But a race to bloody forget. The reason it seemed he was unhappy was because they sort of missed their chance to pit at the same time as people around them that they were racing. And then that meant that they had to leave him out on his medium tyres. And his medium tyres, I'm assuming, were feeling pretty yuck to drive on. And as a result, he then came in much later to pit. Very early on, they were saying that they were monitoring an issue to do with the PU, which has been an issue for both Aston Martin, Mercedes
and Williams.
So really not good, because that is all Mercedes. They supply the engines to all those teams, and it's Mercedes that supplies them.
Yeah.
So it's a widespread issue, and yet not really understanding what's going on there.
Yeah, not good at all. And in the end, he had to retire, which he did in the last race as well. So he has not been getting any points. But luckily for them, Carlos Sainz managed to get some points in this race. So currently we have Alex Albon on 42 points and Carlos Sainz on 13. So, I mean, Albon's still carrying the team.
Yeah.
But, yeah, he hasn't scored a point since Monaco.
Well, I mean, it wasn't an easy qualifying for Sainz either.
No.
Going before the race had even bloody started. He got impeded by Hadjar.
Yeah.
And he was fuming about it. The reason that he was left so angry was because Hadjar, I think, had a miscommunication with his team. They told him that he was on a slow lap. He actually wasn't. So wandered back onto the side of the track where Sainz was. He ended up missing out on Q2 by less than 1/10 of a second.
Yeah.
I think he lost about 3/10 with the impeding of Hadjar, which meant he would have been safely through had that not happened. And
meanwhile, Hadjar got to go through.
Exactly. So he said afterwards, he said, I don't care if I was fast. In Q1, you arrive and there's a guy in the middle of the road that completely blows your qualifying away. And that means that your weekend is destroyed. So Hadjar was then hit with a 3-place grid penalty. And afterwards, in qualifying, Hadjar said, I got told he was on an aborted lap. I was on a fast in lap as well, so I didn't move out the way. It was a misunderstanding, but honestly, nothing I could have done. I'm very sorry for him. He qualified in 9th, but then lined up in 12th as a result of his penalty. So the Williams boys were not having a greatest weekend.
No.
But as you say, Carlos was still able to get some points, which they'll be very grateful of, so that it wasn't a pointless outing. But
Good
my
for
word.
Sainz.
He was able to get point.
Oh, point.
Listen, it counts.
Oh my God.
Why did Lawson retire?
They decided to retire the car to protect their power units. They only have a certain amount of allocated power units per season. And they decided that as they changed it for the race, that they decided they wanted to just keep that PU nice and new, nice and shiny.
Fresh.
Thank you, nice and fresh. Take any of those words. They'd like to keep that nice and insert word here for next races. So they decided, you know what, retire the car.
I
To be
mean,
fair, he was quite far down. He's out of points.
He
So.
wasn't going to score any points anyway.
Well, you don't know that.
He was like 19.
You don't know that.
Stranger things have happened.
Exactly.
I think you're rooting for him too hard.
Another icon.
Yes, that one I can agree with.
Well, should we talk about Ferrari? We need to talk about Ferrari.
I mean, I think Leclerc had a decent race. He managed to, he started lower down, but managed to get up to P5 in the end. So that wasn't too bad from him, I guess.
And Lewis was P6.
Lewis was P6. Obviously, they should have been 6 and 7 had Norris not have retired.
Yeah.
But still, points are points.
Points are points. I think it's been a bit of a difficult race weekend for the pair of them. Before they'd even really started their race weekend, an Italian publication reported that Ferrari was looking to replace Fred Vasseur. Fred Vasseur is obviously the team principal for Ferrari, and they were saying that that was in light of the team's performance struggles. Nearly everyone at the team, including drivers, Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc, have been grilled about the potential swap this week, and they've all had the same response, that Vasseur is not going anywhere. But Vasseur may have had his buttons pressed in the press conference this week because he was bombarded with questions about it and also, Ferrari's future. And he basically said, they have these journalists and I'm not putting everybody in the same basket, but they have to consider that these people, they have family, they have wives, they have kids, and this is completely unrespectful. Because obviously for him, must be a bit of a weird thing. Imagine if you were like going to work and you had a bit of a crap week the week before, and then you saw in a newspaper like, Izzy's going to get fired. You'd be like, that's a bit public. Obviously, the whole problem is with Ferrari, they don't seem to bring in upgrades. They just seem to be not that fast. And then for Lewis, he had damage that he accrued quite early on in the race. And they were saying that was 20 points of downforce. The commentary kind of explained to us that that was about half a second's worth of pace per lap, which was what he was doing. And same in Monaco, he was sort of in no man's land doing nothing, kind of had the exact same race today. He was just nowhere. So I think Charles Leclerc, once again, was much faster in race trim and seemed to be the faster Ferrari of the two. But I think they just need more performance.
Yeah.
I just think they're flatlining a little bit. But I'm wondering if maybe they're starting to gear up to move over to the 2026 car. Maybe that's what we're going to be seeing for the rest of the season. But it's going to be a long season for them if that's the case.
Yeah. Well, I mean, from like a wider point of view, if you're just looking at the race order, they're not doing too bad. Like Leclerc in 5th and Lewis in 6th. But then when you see the gap between Leclerc and Piastri, it was like 17 seconds, I think. So they really weren't fast. They really are nowhere near the speed that Mercedes and McLaren have, and Red Bull.
Yeah, it's very
just
true.
Max and the Red Bull.
Yeah. They're probably closer to midfield than they are to the top runners, which is weird.
Well, if we rewind to Charles Leclerc, he obviously had a crash in free practice, so they had to rebuild the car. He had to sit out all of Friday. So he kind of hoped that maybe he could be right in the mix of everything. Then he hit traffic in Q3. He came across Isaac Hadjar. Isaac Hadjar was fucking everywhere in this qualifying. He was driving slowly on the racing line. He admitted that the dirty air that had thrown out of the back of Hadjar's car caught him off guard. He nearly lost control, then caught his car, and then had to abandon his lap. So he lined up 8th on the grid on Sunday. I think he had felt that they had potentially got the pace for getting pole. Which was not to be for them.
That's wishful thinking.
Just for everyone at home, that was... I think that was a bit of wishful thinking too. I think Mercedes seemed to have everything in hand, and where they didn't, so did Max. And if they didn't, don't worry, McLaren have it too.
Yeah.
So I'm not quite sure about that. Another disappointing outing. It would be nice to have a Ferrari 1-2, or even a 1-3. Or just not just 1-3, because they don't, there's only Leclerc that's been able to get them any podiums currently, apart from Hamilton's sprint.
Maybe Silverstone.
Maybe.
Well, if Lewis lasts until then, because the rumour mill has also been saying that he will probably leave before this season is over.
I just don't see him doing that.
Yeah.
I don't see him doing that.
I feel like there's no point in him leaving before the season is over.
That is a very downtrodden man.
It is a very I'd rather be crying in a Bugatti than on a bus though. So who cares? So the car's not where he wants it to be, but also it's his first season with a new team. He's been so well embedded with Mercedes. There's always going to be that time where he needs to see how how the team works. And on top of that, this is a car that hasn't been developed around him. This has been developed around Charles Leclerc and also Carlos Sainz for quite a few years.
And even Leclerc struggling.
Exactly.
But I wonder if maybe he thought I'm good enough to just be able to get in any car and be able to razz it.
Probably. I don't think that Lewis is loving this type of regulation though. And I also think that 2026 is probably where he was looking to be in a new team for, because these big regulations, they're huge. I mean, it's so huge actually that they did the F175 event this year, in the O2, and each team had a chance to walk out with their 2025 challenging car to everyone to see, and on top of that kind of had a few minutes to be able to have graphics on the stage and be able to kind of show their personality as a team, and they showed their race suits for the year. It was a very cool live event, and then all the people in the paddock were all sitting at tables, and Jack Whitehall was taking the mick out of everybody, and it was a lovely event. But they've actually said they're not going to do that next year. There's so much work that the teams are doing for the 2026 regulations that they're like, bin this off, just work on the cars. So that tells you even itself, because I'm sure there'll be a lot of money to make to have an event like that. To bin it off tells you that they really need these cars to be up to speed. So I'm wondering if Lewis is bar shooting it over to that season.
Do you think that maybe there's part of him that wishes he'd stayed in Mercedes, especially after seeing races like this where...
No,
both
I
of
think seeing
one
hit a
on
1-3
podium?
for Mercedes whilst he's parking up into the pen nowhere is probably, he's probably thinking I'm in the right place. Of course. Of course. It's going to sting like a motherfucker. He's going to hate it. I think so. I think there'll be, especially days like that. It's like anything, you know. It's like if you leave to go to a different job, and then the company you work for, everyone's like, you just got a pay rise because you left. You know, that's going to sting. That didn't happen to me, but I'm just saying that, like, that sort of thing is going to hurt. But I think it's about, he needs to focus on what he's building in Ferrari. He needs to be focusing on the communication with his engineer. He needs to be focusing on the direction the team is taking. He needs to be making sure he has a voice in terms of development. Those are all things he needs to be focusing on. Don't get angry, get even.
I think if he ends up leaving at the end of this year and he just retires and says, okay, I'm done, I think it's just going to confirm what everyone has been saying about him, where they're saying he's not good enough and he's too old to be on the track and whatnot. And I think if he stays, even if he's not doing amazingly and he keeps trying, and you can see that Leclerc is also struggling and the car is just shit, basically, you can tell, like, people will get to a point where they understand it's not entirely his fault. And he is still pushing. And then 2026, he'll prove them wrong.
Yeah, he's equaled the amount of championships with Michael Schumacher. He's got 7 world championships. That talent doesn't dissipate into nothing. He just needs that car to be more fine-tuned to him. So I think let it simmer. I think 2026 will be the real test. That will be the season that we'll really see what's going on.
Can I share a hot take?
Ooh, sure.
Ferrari need to sack Adami.
Yeah, I can see that. I actually kind of agree, to be honest with you. The irony is that I saw in the press coming into the season that apparently Lewis called up Sebastian Vettel, who had Adami as his engineer, and kind of called him and said, is this guy all right? And he said yes. I don't know, maybe Sebastian Vettel's into pranks. I'm not sure. So it's hard to tell.
Yeah, because Seb struggled with him as well.
Yes.
And so did Sainz.
Yes.
And now so is Lewis.
Yes.
I'm sensing a common denominator.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not looking good, bruv. But I feel like maybe they actually need to stop just firing people and having a revolving door of staff in Ferrari.
Okay, but can they do that after they get rid of him?
Okay, fine. Okay, we'll make this new culture of no blame. You leave. Let's start it. Well, I'd like to talk about Haas, a humble team that was Formula One's first American-led team in 30 years when they debuted in Australia nearly a decade ago. Fast forward to this weekend's Canadian Grand Prix, and Gene Haas's operation have become part of the furniture as they've lined up this race for their 200th race.
Damn!
I know! So on April 2014, Haas was granted a licence by the FIA to join the starting grid of the F1 Formula One World Championship in 2016, and the team actually scored points on debut with Romain Grosjean, who finished P6, and have since become a very strong force within the sport's competitive midfield. Throughout their time in the sport, they've been the smallest team on the grid, both in terms of personnel and budget. For this race, they're entering their 200 era. They've decided to hit the occasion with a special livery, but I'm not gonna lie to you, it was quite subtle.
I didn't notice anything different.
Oh, yeah. It's an addition that was basically back to the original design that they had sported on the back of their car in 2016.
Right, I think they should have gone back to the black and gold.
Oh.
Rich energy vibes.
Sam Sparrow edition. Their race driver Ocon said, "We have the team members' names on the front ring as well as written down. It's a nice little throwback, and I hope this will bring us luck this weekend." And while the milestone will make this weekend's event a special race for Haas, they admitted that the team need to work harder in order to keep up with their rivals. So, how did they do in the Canadian Grand Prix, ladies? What is the verdict?
I think they did all right. They got points.
And the verdict is they came in P9 and P11.
Yeah, they did all right.
So Ocon, with his team members' names all over the wings, was able to zoom into some points. So very well done to Ocon.
Well, I have a question, actually, as you're talking about liveries.
Hit me!
McLaren sponsors.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, in the past, it has been commented that they are just sponsor merchants and...
Not now they're winning.
No, not now that they're winning. But I do have a question about what kind of sponsorships are allowed and what aren't. Because obviously, we know that Sauber have some issues with their sponsors and stuff like that. But McLaren have Velo on their car.
What's Velo?
Snus.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is that not allowed?
I didn't know that you could advertise.
I didn't know that you could do that either, because, I mean, the whole thing was that at a point when they were all doing that, the cigarette companies were obviously making God knows how much money, which brought a lot of money into the sport. But it also then became like, you need to have responsible advertising, and smoking's obviously not good.
Yeah. So Velo have a McLaren Sweet Papaya limited edition flavour, and it contains 8 milligrams of nicotine but doesn't contain tobacco. So is that why they're allowed to do it? Because it doesn't
must be.
contain tobacco, but nicotine is harmful. It's
That's true. That's quite a weird thing for them to go for.
Yeah.
I would find that a bit strange, no? Because, I mean, like, they do it like Monster energy drinks and like Red Bull and stuff like that. They're obviously very closely associated with Mercedes and Red Bull, respectively. But do you think they'll have Lando Norris, like, getting ready for a race day and then, like, in an advert,
popping some
snus in, putting on his helmet and then going for a race?
How to keep a cool head. But in the past, they've also had Vuse, as in VUSE, which is e-cigarette, vape sort of thing as well.
That's an interesting line, isn't it? Because it's then like, how far can you go with stuff like that when it is meant to be a wholesome sort of sport that doesn't do those kind of things? But then you do have gambling ones, and I don't know, what is the line with those kind of sponsors?
I mean, I think it's especially weird considering we were in M&S last weekend. And
don't expose our weekend activities.
Also, what's that got to do with it?
Yeah.
No, but there was a kids clothes line that was all McLaren, because McLaren's obviously, like, you know, the best team on the track currently, and it's a UK team, so there's going to be a lot of attention on them. So the fact that they're selling kids clothes with their name on it, and then also doing nicotine sponsorships, it feels icky.
Oh.
And then it feels like it just feels wrong. It feels money grabbing almost.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I'll tell you what, because Nav sprung this on me. I've done no research. So, in the next race, I'll do a little bit of research into advertising in F1, and we can talk about if there's any rules behind it.
Oh, love it. Okay.
Yeah.
Cute. If only I'd done that now. We could talk about it now, but we can't. Life's not fair. Okay.
Sorry.
No, it's an interesting.
I just noticed it on the car, and I was like, "Wait, the fuck." Should we move on to Ream's quali lap?
Yes.
Quali lap?
No.
No.
No. All right.
You saying with chest, yes. Should we move on to Ream's recap?
Yes.
Papaya power turns into papaya fucking hell.
Okay.
Sorry. I couldn't think of anything.
McLaren superstars Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri got into a little sibling rival. How do you say rivalry? Got into a sibling rivalry. Got into a sibling rivalry on track.
You know what? You had 8 takes of it. You're just going to have to go with that.
I'm not cutting any of it out.
No!
It's Haas's 200th Grand Prix.
I'm supposed to be professional.
No,
Excuse me. If you're going to be professional, take one on.
Oh, is that
It's
it?
Haas's 200th Grand Prix.
Haas is celebrating its 200th anniversary on track today. However, they're still not a team to really be singing about. But they did score 2 points.
Alex Albon's out of the race.
If this doesn't start with good boy, Alex.
I was thinking that. Good boy, Alex Albon. Retires from the race after his engine crashes. Is it?
Question mark.
That's it.
Brilliant.
Max Verstappen keeps it clean.
Max Verstappen, according to Izzy, an icon on the track for purposely crashing into people, had a very clean race for once because he wasn't that close to George Russell. Otherwise, it might have gone differently.
Doesn't sound great when she summarises it like that, huh?
Stan Queen. Doubling down. George Russell manages to win in Canada.
George Russell scores P1, his first P1 at the 2025
Does he
season.
score P1? Did he score P1?
George Russell wins at the Canadian Grand Prix, the first time in the 2025 season that he's won so far. However, his teammate Kimi Antonelli is very close behind, taking P3, so he might have some competition on his hands.
Kimi Antonelli gets P3.
Kimi Antonelli, the best rookie on the track by far. Sorry, Lawson. gets P3.
Oh, stop saying scored. It's not football.
Gets P3 at the Canadian Grand Prix, making him the third youngest driver to be on podium.
Freddie the Frog might be asked to hop away.
F1 fans need to be focusing on who the real person needs to be fired from Ferrari, which is engineer Adami, because no one likes him, including Lewis Hamilton. Allegedly. Allegedly, I can't claim that he doesn't like him.
Okay, well that was, as it always is,
A brilliant recap.
a recap. A brilliant recap. Well done.
one.
No, you are a good boy. Okay,
Thank you.
let's trot away from Ream's recap studio and walk down the corridor to the Grand Prix podium, ladies. Thank you. This week, there are many characters up and down the grid that could be chosen for this very, very, very embarrassing award of prick.
I think it's going to be pretty unanimous. So shall we just say who our prick is on 3?
Yes.
3, 2, 1.
Lando
Lando.
Norris.
Oh.
It's a Colapinto.
Why?
Rogue.
Okay, I'm so glad you asked. Because Colapinto's Formula One return hasn't exactly gone to plan this year. We can all agree, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Behind the wheel of an Alpine, he struggled to show brilliant pace, and he also displayed much better performances in Williams in 2024, which is the reason he was able to catch the eye of Alpine in the first place. So he then had a 5-race guaranteed stint at the team after Flavio Briatore kind of said that, and then backtracked and said, no, you just need to do 3 things. You need to be fast, score points, and not crash. But he's 4 races into the 5, and they've basically still lacking in performance.
He's crashed.
Yeah.
He's been slow.
Yeah.
He hasn't got any points.
No
Yeah.
points.
So on Sunday, he was starting 10th, which is a pretty... This is the point starting position.
Courtesy of a penalty from Hadra.
Yes, because he set a time good enough for 12th, but he's earned 2 positions from other drivers. So that could secure him a seat. However, after a difficult race, he had a slow pit stop. He ended up 13th.
That's not really his fault.
She's got you there.
Yeah, you're right. But
You
also...
just wanted to be different.
Yeah, I did.
Well, it's not valid. Norris is the prick.
No.
Well, yeah, 2 against 1.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, that's democracy. Fair enough. What can you do?
More difficult pick. Let's go for Grand.
Oh, golly.
I like this thing that we do where we all say it on 3. So let's just do that again.
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
George
Hulkenberg.
Russell.
Hulkenberg.
Sorry, he's in P8 in a fucking Sauber, love.
I know, but you said his name normally?
Sorry. Should we do it again?
Yeah.
Sorry.
3, 2, 1. Russell.
Hulkenberg.
That's more like it.
Thank you.
Why?
He's P8 in a Sauber.
I know, but he's been doing all right lately.
Yeah. He got P5 in the last race.
Yeah.
It's actually,
Sorry.
he's gone down.
No.
He's peaked.
No, he has not peaked. No, how
He's
dare
gone
you?
from P5 to P8.
How dare you?
Yeah.
Listen,
In the Spanish Grand Prix, he got 10 points. This time around, he only got 4.
sorry, we're...
Pathetic.
Sorry, excuse me.
I'm changing my answer. He's prick.
No! Nico, no, sorry. He's only 2 places down from a Ferrari. And in the Spanish Grand Prix, he overtook a Ferrari.
See,
so my
again,
point...
gone down.
No, it's called being consistently good with a car that's bright green. Nickelodeon green.
To be fair, Bortoletto has 0 points and Hulkenberg is currently on 20. So fair, but also I don't think this race was like a standout race for him.
It's a quiet victory. He came 8th. Who exactly even noticed that? I didn't notice that, and I was watching the damn race. Yes, okay, fine. George Russell won the race. Okay, fine. He has a great car, but he doesn't have a bright green car that isn't that fast and is actually being able to get some points out of it. I think he's slaps.
Well,
there you go, boom.
Once again, it's 2 against 1.
Okay.
Yeah, I think George is the obvious choice here. He put in an absolute stellar performance during qualifying and managed to actually keep Max and McLaren's behind him in a season where that doesn't seem like anyone is able to do it. So I think he did a really good job
Yeah.
of maintaining that lead.
Fine. I guess it's democracy, but whatever. I'm happy about it.
And I think we can all agree on who Grand Prick is going to be.
I fancy just saying a name that you guys aren't say. What's the fucking point?
Just say the right answer, for God's sake. 3, 2, 1.
Tsunoda!
Antonelli! Shut the fuck up! Go on, explain your way into this one.
He started at the back and he climbed his way to P12.
Still 0 points.
I actually agree with what you guys said.
Go on, justify the right answer for us.
Antonelli came into this season with some big shoes to fill. 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton, coming from a team and driver pairing that is one of the most successful we've ever seen in the sport. Their era of dominance, they were unbeatable. And Lewis decided to finally hang up his Mercedes race suit and leave over to Maranello, leaving a young Kimi Antonelli, a young rookie, a young boy, going into this big team. And he has been nothing but a fucking sensation. And he has made mistakes along the way, but comparatively to all the wonderful things he's been able to do in that bloody cool race car of his, has been rather remarkable to watch. He's a much more mature racer than his years would suggest. And today, he had a cool head, just went through the motions, obviously had Bono in his ear. He seems to get on very well with Toto. They all seem to look at him like his child. It's very sweet. And I think that he was able to bring out a beautiful performance today.
Yes, very right.
Was it as good as Sonoda's performance?
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes.
But I guess we'll never
Yes.
know.
Yes.
It's great. It's easy to shine when you're winning points. How about when you're not getting points?
You don't shine as brightly. Right. And on that note, we are done with the Canadian Grand Prix and we will be moving on to the Austrian Grand Prix.
The Red Bull Ring, baby.
Oh, yes. Will the Orange Army or Papaya Army be flocking to the stands?
Yes.
Will Max be a grand or a prick?
Well, will he be driving sensibly because he can't get any points on his license?
Yes, that's very true. We'll have to see. All questions we can answer in the next podcast recording.
Absolutely. And one thing that I'm very excited for is what you're going to pull out of the bag for the introduction.
Oh yeah. Good
Yeah.
accent.
Oh, no.
Sorry, you think all I'm going to do is put an accent on?
Oh, you're gonna do more.
Yes.
Okay.
You don't know.
Okay.
We've had a recipe. We've had a cheerleader cheer.
Had a rap.
We've had a rap.
Had
I've
a
got to keep the
Gen Z
rap.
thing. Oh.
That was a rap, Reem. Thank you very much.
I think you should go for a power ballad.
Ooh, that. I think if we start a Patreon and people are paying for it, sure. But put myself out there like that.
Oh my god, do a slam poetry.
What on earth are you saying? No one would want to hear that.
Oh yeah, but they'd want to hear a tree or a recipe and Gen Z rap.
All right, fine. You made a fucking good point. All right.
Well, we will see you next week for the Austrian Grand Prix, but in the meantime, make sure you follow us on all of our social media platforms. We are on Instagram and X and TikTok and YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to the podcast, but also share it with friends. Don't gatekeep.
Yeah.
We don't condone that, actually. Don't gatekeep. Share.
No. Let's all say bye.
What, like children's TV?
Yeah.
Okay. 3, 2.
Wait, no. Do you want me to do something?
Yeah.
Do you want me to do like a kids' TV presenter?
Yeah.
Okay. We've had loads of fun with you today. Thank you so much for joining us. It's bye bye for you, and it's bye bye from us. Bye.